Unlike most Korean-made cars, the paintwork of this model is of fairly good quality, so many instances have a good appearance. However, due to the age of the car, certain problems such as chips, scratches, and sandblasting of paint in certain areas of the body, hood, windshield edge, wheel arches take place, but their complete absence should be alert. There are also no particular complaints about the corrosion resistance of the body. Despite this, it is not worth leaving open areas of metal, chips. They begin to bloom over time. In machines without proper care, small pockets of corrosion can be found on the bottom, welds, under the hood and around the side members, attachment points for the suspension brackets and the exhaust system. Periodic cleaning and anti-corrosive treatment is required. Also, hidden elements of the body require attention. So, for example, without proper addition, the rear arches under the spar and the fuel tank, dirt accumulates on the top panel, can rot through. Due to the lack of proper protection of the technological hole in the left front arch, moisture and dirt get into the engine compartment, which leads to all sorts of problems. The main relay line in the fuse box is the fastest to be exposed to harmful effects, contacts rod. To eliminate the disadvantage, it is necessary to close the hole with a sealant or a layer of bitumen rubber mixture. Some owners blame the unfortunate location of the body vents through which moisture can enter the trunk. Among other shortcomings of the body, it is worth noting the poor quality of the sealant and fastening of the plastic door linings. It is afraid of loss, the unreliability of the door stops, and the rear door wipers turn sour. Many owners blame the excessive softness of the bumper plastic, it scratches easily, and the insufficient thickness of the roof metal. The range of Hyundai Tucson power units consists of 3 engines: gasoline series Beta 2 2.0 142 horsepower, Delta 2 V6 2.7 173 horsepower, and the 2.0-liter diesel D engine 112 horsepower and 140 horsepower. In general, gasoline engines are considered reliable. Besides, their fuel equipment works without problems on our gasoline. Of the common problems of these motors, it is worth highlighting the unreliability of the timing belt drive. It is recommended to change the belt at least once every 50–60,000 kilometers. But there are those who roll out up to 100,000 kilometers on one belt, although such savings often go sideways. If the belt breaks, the valve bends. The engine cooling system can also surprise. After 5–6 years, the lower part of the radiator rusts heavily, the pipes lose their tightness. There are also problems with the reliability of the quality of rubber products, which is why traces of oil appear on the motor over the years. From time to time, it is necessary to change the mesh filter located in the gas tank. Failure to do so increases the likelihood of early pump failure. It is also worth noting the insufficient efficiency of the engine mounts. Because of this, the engines experience excessive vibration loading. The disadvantages of a 2-liter engine G4GC include frequent malfunctions in the ignition system. Ignition coils, explosive wires and candles fail, which are manifested by the appearance of jerks and direction failures. Another typical nuisance is the increased noise of operation. Correcting the situation a little helps adjusting the thermal clearances of the valves. The problem with speed freezes is also considered quite common, since in most cases it can be eliminated by updating the ECU software. With untimely maintenance, the life of the CVT valve, which is responsible for changing the valve timing, is significantly reduced. Despite an acceptable piston resource, more than 300,000 kilometers, after 200,000 kilometers, a gradual increase in oil consumption is possible. A more powerful power unit, G6BA, like the 2.0-liter engine, is not without weaknesses. In addition to a low resource belt, the timing system is endowed with a problematic hydraulic tensioner, which in severe frost may refuse to perform its functions. The intake manifold flaps are also not famous for their reliability. They are unscrewed and fall under the valves. Closer to 150,000 kilometers, the catalyst, exhaust manifolds, and the second lambda sensor installed after the corrugation become unusable. Since there are no hydraulic compensators on this motor, every 80–100,000 kilometers it is necessary to adjust the thermal clearances of the valves. The presence of unstable idling is often caused by glitches of the IAC or the accumulation of dirt in the throttle. The reason for the increased oil consumption is excessive wear of the rings. If they are not replaced in a timely manner, everything can end with the bearing turning. Also, a significant drawback of this engine is considered to be high fuel consumption. Moreover, servicing a V6 is more difficult and expensive than an inline 4. The advantage of this engine is a huge resource by modern standards, about 500,000 kilometers, and excellent dynamics. Hyundai Tucson with a D4EA diesel engine is an infrequent guest on our market, since this model was not officially delivered to us but was imported from Europe. Traditionally, the weak point of such engines is fuel equipment, which painfully endures operation on low-quality fuel. Injectors and high-pressure pump quickly fail. The situation is aggravated by the complex design of the filter heating and weak nozzle seals burn out. Also, the use of Badajny diesel fuel reduced the resource of the exhaust gas recirculation EGR valve. Like gasoline units, the timing belt is not famous for its reliability. Replacement is required every 50,000 kilometers. If it breaks, the valve will inevitably bend. In addition, the motor is sensitive to quality and service intervals. If you rarely change the oil and constantly drive at low speeds, the oil receiver quickly becomes clogged and the engine begins to experience oil starvation with all the ensuing consequences, seizures on the liners, etc. When using low-viscosity oil for long mileage, there is a high probability of rotation of the liners. By 200,000 kilometers, you need to be ready to replace the turbocharger and dual-mass flywheel. Also, on aged specimens, cases of cylinder head cracking are not uncommon. Transmission. For Hyundai Tucson, two types of gearboxes were provided, 5- and 6-speed mechanics. The latter was installed only in tandem with the diesel unit, and a 4-speed hydromechanical automatic. Despite the satisfactory level of reliability of all transmissions of this model, the W4A42/F4A42 automatic transmission, which is a joint development of Hyundai and Mitsubishi, still looks preferable. Most often, gearbox failures up to 200,000 kilometers are caused by excessive wear of the clutches and untimely maintenance. The accumulated dirt disables the valve body and solenoids and also leads to a decrease in pressure in the torque converter and the combustion of the underdrive and second brake package and their further failure. After 200,000 kilometers, the solenoid wiring may need to be replaced. Closer to 250,000 kilometers, there are age-related problems with the box. Pump performance decreases, input and output speed sensors fail, planetary gear and differential fail. Formations with the 2.7 engine, the thrust bearing of the overdrive planetary gear may begin to fall apart quite early. You can also note the unreliability of the seals at the junction of the housing with the torque converter flow. Of the features, it is worth highlighting the absence of a protective gear shift interlock. Because of this, there is a risk of seriously damaging the automatic transmission, for example, by accidentally turning on the parking mode on the go. With timely maintenance and careful operation, the resource of the box will be more than 300,000 kilometers. The disadvantage of mechanical gearboxes is the rapid wear of the sport bearing of the right axle shaft. It serves 100–120,000 kilometers. Gearbox synchronizers are also quite problematic, because of which by 150–180,000 kilometers gearbox repairs may be required. There are difficulties with shifting gears. Synchronizers of second and third gears are the first to give up. At the same run, there is a noticeable backlash in the gear shift caused by wear on the bushings. In addition, about once every 100,000 kilometers, you have to tighten the bolts of the gear shift mechanism. A clutch kit in a 5-speed box with medium loads can withstand about 150,000 kilometers, but in a 6-speed it can last up to 200,000 kilometers. The hydraulic clutch mechanism is poorly adapted to work in a harsh climate. It becomes hard in severe frost, because of which its oil seal suffers greatly. Of the less significant troubles, one can single out the presence of oil leaks through the axle shaft seals at the junction of the box with the engine. Most Hyundai Tucson presented in the secondary market are endowed with an all-wheel drive system. This system is implemented using an electronically controlled center clutch mounted in the rear gearbox, which automatically connects the rear axle when the front axle slips. Where overcoming particularly difficult selections, the clutch can be blocked forcibly by activating this function with a special button located on the dashboard. Among the disadvantages of an all-wheel drive transmission, one can note the tendency of the splines of the drive shaft to corrosion, which over time can lead to turning the joints. The crosses of the cardan shaft are also considered quite problematic. Depending on the operating conditions, they serve 100–150,000 kilometers. The malfunction is manifested by increased vibrations. The cardan shaft itself in urban use does not require tension up to 200,000 kilometers. But with frequent off-road forays, experienced owners strongly recommend periodically lubricating the joints of this unit. Closer to 200,000 kilometers, the gearbox oil seals begin to sweat. It is not worth tightening with the replacement of oil seals, since even a minimal decrease in the oil level in the gearbox can lead to its failure. As for the reliability of the coupling under moderate loads and timely maintenance, it does not cause any particular problems. But if you neglect the care of it, the friction wear products will significantly accelerate the wear of the clutch shank bearing and its seals. On an aged car, it is necessary to monitor the condition of the bearing, since the presence of play in it leads to damage to the drive electromagnet. Reliability of used Hyundai Tucson suspension and brakes. Both axles of Hyundai Tucson are equipped with independent suspension, front McPherson strut, rear multi-link. In the original version, the suspension is quite strong. In urban use up to 100,000 km, it does not require special attention. Stabilizer struts and bushings are the fastest to give up. The average resource is 40–60,000 km, but the bushings can last twice as long. Ball bearings and wheel bearings do not differ in reliability. They rarely nurse more than 100,000 km. Shock absorbers can also knock quite early. This problem is most often caused by the absence of anthers of the stem. To extend the life of the shock absorbers, you need to install an anther, for example, from VAZ 2108. Also, vulnerabilities include the tendency of its chassis parts to corrosion, bolts turn sour, spring supports caps and subframe rust. The rest of the suspension elements under moderate loads can withstand 120–150,000 km. The steering system uses a rack and pinion mechanism with hydraulic booster. The reliability of this unit largely depends on the operating conditions. So, for example, if you don't slow down on potholes and broken selections, the rake gives up on a run of 100–120,000 km, bushings break, oil seals flow. While with careful handling, its service life can be about 200,000 km. There should be no problems with the power steering pump, unless, of course, you forget to periodically change the fluid in the system and monitor its level. But the steering tips and traction here turned out to be rather weak and need to be replaced every 50–100,000 km. There are also complaints about the reliability of the car's braking system. The main disadvantage is the lack of efficiency of the brakes and weak brake holes, which after 150,000 km of run can begin to fall apart at the rolling points. Also problematic are the susceptibility of calipers to corrosion. They need careful maintenance, and the unreliability of the caliper brackets. They lose their shape. Brake pads serve an average of 35–45,000 km. Discs, as a rule, are enough for 3–4 sets of pads. Salon and electrical equipment. Despite the use of budget finishing materials, Tucson's salon make a good impression. The disadvantages of this interior, in addition to the cheapness of the finish, include not the best build quality and fragile plastic of the cabin equipment controls, window control buttons, steering column switches, seat adjusters, etc. The leather steering wheel braid and seat upholstery are weakly resistant to wear and are very afraid of moisture. As a result, they look pretty shabby for a run of 100–150,000 km. There are problems with wear resistance and the side wall of the front seats torn. It is also worth noting the weak frame of the front seats and the unreliability of the micro-lift. Against the background of all this, such troubles as poor sound insulation and squeaky interior look like mere trifles. As for the reliability of interior equipment, here we can highlight the unreliability of the climate system radiator, compressor and air conditioning line. Also considered quite problematic are the electric wipers, power windows to adjust the mirrors. If the car constantly spends the night in the open air, the electrical wiring contacts oxidize over the years. After 200,000 km, all kinds of sensors, DM, RV and temperature sensors, etc. begin to systematically die. Hyundai Tucson is one of the most attractive offers in the secondary market among crossovers. First of all, the low cost of buying a Korean CUV and its further maintenance captivities. Things are not bad with the reliability of the car. Naturally, minor troubles are not uncommon for her, but significant breakdowns, even at such an elderly age, are not common. If you are the owner of this car model, please describe the problems that you had to face during the operation of the car. Perhaps it is your review that will help readers of our site when choosing a car.